Breaking news I was just talking about in Kiev. Tear gas has been used during clashes in the Ukrainian capital after rioters attacked a police bus which was blocking their way. Activists and opposition leaders have gathered to push for the government to step down over a new law they say is in breach of the constitution. Let's get some more from Ukrainian journalist Andrei Bashtovoy. He's just witnessed the latest events there. Andrei, hi, I hope you can hear me there. While I'm speaking to you, we'll be showing some pictures, latest pictures from the scene as well. You were at the rally there. Did you see how and why it turned violent?
Hey, I want to say that after this Sunday traditional people protest started the violent scenario. So 200 meters from me, 2 hours ago, the people who wanted to come to the governmental building and to Verkhovna Rada, so Ukrainian parliament building, they were stopped by police and small group of radicals. So small groups of right radicals members, it's not the political radicals, but some people who are aggressive, and they started fight against the police. They started throwing the pyrotechnics to them, and the police answered them, and they started the clashes. So the clashes are happening now, even now, so it didn't stopped. Even this second. So I want to say that these people are trying to break into the parliamentary buildings, but it's too violent. And some of protest members of Euromaidan are not supporting them, and there are a lot of discussions on the Europejska Square now. So there are some people who support violence and some people who don't.
Andrei, have you seen any injured people there at all?
I'm sorry, can you say it one more time?
Have you seen any people injured there at all this afternoon?
Yeah, I saw these people. So there is a lot of medicals around the Europejska Sphere. They are trying to help to somebody because the policemen used the gas, and after that, a lot of people had problems with health now, and they need the medical support. And I know that some of policemen also has some problems. One of the police special force members were beaten by the radicals. And after that, he was put into the Euromaidan, so 200 meters there beside me, and medicals are helping him.
Andrei, you talked about radical hardline elements there. Who are they, and how many of them are there?
So on Europejska Square now there are some 1,000 people, but only 100 of them are these right radicals who are fighting against the police. All other people are just standing and watching at this. So these people are not supported by all the political parties, and a few seconds ago the leaders of Ukrainian opposition said that they don't support all the radical and violent things which are happening now in Kiev, and they need only the peaceful scenario, and they can't support these people. And these right radicals, so they are not controlled by politicians. It's like an alternative right radical movement in Ukraine, and some experts think that these people are controlled by Ukrainian special forces.
All right, Andrei Bashtovoy there, Ukrainian journalist. Thanks for the update, much appreciated. Well, let's talk now to our correspondent, Rina Galushka, just fresh back from Ukraine, not too long ago, in fact, as well yourself. From the scenes you've been seeing playing out today, I guess they were sparked by this new law, or latest in a series of laws that were signed on Thursday. Are you surprised by what's happened there today, though?
No, as a matter of fact, no, because it either had to, I would say, burst into flame earlier, right when they started back in November, or it got to the point where they have to do something. And by they, I mean the protesters, and of course the government as well, but mostly the protesters. Because for a while there, they tried to, keep it coming in waves. They were waiting for the dispersal of the Maidan. They kept saying it's going to happen. People kept getting messages through their phones and through Twitter, threatening messages, which were essentially saying we're about to be ambushed, the police are about to attack us, there's going to be, essentially all hell breaking loose, and it never happened. So I think it got to the point where they just had to have done something. If you
What
look
was
at
the particular catalyst today, I wonder, for this?
Well, you know, today, it's really, I mean, I wasn't particularly there today, but from what I've seen, from what I've observed, it's probably quite safe to say that we probably had several hundred of these ultra-nationalist not even activist protests, and there's plenty of them hanging out at the Maidan at the
What are they trying to get
European
out of
Square.
this, then?
You know, honestly, if I were to speak from a personal point of view, I would say this is exactly what they wanted, the mayhem. Not even publicity so much. It's basically a collection of young men who are violently determined to not even bring attention to themselves. They feed on the chaos and the mayhem and the confrontations with police. And once they get to these confrontations, they can be very violent. I mean, they have nice sticks. They're prepared to be attacked.
We're hearing Klitschko and the opposition very much distancing themselves from them.
Absolutely.
But of course, there are ordinary citizens caught up in this as well.
As a matter of fact, there were reports that I read on Twitter from some of the journalists who were tweeting, and they said that for a while there it looked like Klitschko was actually about to come to blows with the people who have actually started burning the bus. And at one point they tried to direct the bus. Somebody got into the bus and tried to direct them at the police.
Bus you're talking
yes,
about.
and if we go back to November, December, there was already an incident when they tried to run a bulldozer into the police as well. So this is sort of a repeat of what we saw back then, just a month ago, essentially, but it does look a lot severe. Of course, it's much more colorful now, and goodness knows how long this is going to go for.
Rewinding the clock there, take us back very briefly to how all this started.
Back in the day, basically it was about the fact that Yanukovych failed, or rather I would say he pulled out at the very last moment from signing a trade agreement with the European Union. But everybody in Ukraine seemed, or a lot of people, I shouldn't say everybody, no. There were a lot of people, especially in the western part of Ukraine, which always tries to associate itself with Europe. Though there were people who were saying, hey, this was our essentially first step into the European Union, and now we're robbed of the chance, which essentially wasn't the case, but let's not delve into that. And afterwards, so basically, the first protests were against the whole pulling away from European Union. But now they're completely different. Now it's against the government. Now they're protesting. Now they're saying this is a revolution, and we want the government to step down.
The protesters are particularly unhappy about a set of new restrictions that were signed in late last week, aren't they? Tell us about those.
Absolutely, yes. There are several laws which sound very complicated, but essentially what they do is they give more power to the judges. They protect the judges. They also essentially cut down on people's right to protest on Maidan. So a lot of people on the Maidan saw that as sort of an attempt to squash the protest.
Let's just go to these latest live pictures now, taking full frame, I think. Hopefully we've got, if you'll stay with me for a second,
of course,
Irina.
yes.
Yeah, let's go full frame to those pictures. I think we're getting a feed from the square there now, I'm told. It looks like a mobile phone picture, but that's the latest live scene there. Can you just, you've been there yourself, I haven't. Can you just take us through what we're looking at there? Which particular area? It's a bit hard to see.
Yes, it's right in the center of the city. This is essentially this is exactly where the protest happened. It's right near the Euromaidan, but it's one street away, essentially. It's right around the corner from the hotel where we were staying. And generally, that's where the police used to sort of get together and protect. The Rada is right there, the Ukrainian parliament. So there were a lot of buses which were essentially cordoning off the Rada and protecting it from the protesters. Should the protests turn violent, but they actually weren't that violent for quite a while. I do not believe...
Is Yanukovych likely to be swayed by any of this, you think, at this stage? I mean, an agreement's been now signed with Russia, but that doesn't preclude future relations with the West either, does it?
No, at this point we can assume that probably he has to do something, obviously. But he also needs to think about the consequences, obviously. Of course, I am no political analyst, but at this point it does look like there's a really high chance that we could be seeing early elections, because there is very little chance that this is going to just end peacefully now, especially after what we've been seeing today.
Vitaly Klitschko, he's been foremost in a lot of this.
He's the darling boy of the Ukrainian uprising.
What are his chances for the future there politically?
You know, from what I've been observing, it does look like he is the favorite of the people who are on the Maidan, and of course of the many European officials who were there and were shaking hands with him and meeting with him, and basically he is the darling of the Ukrainian protests and of those who support the Ukrainian protest. But at this point, especially as of earlier today, again, from what I was reading, people are actually who are protesting on the Independence Square in Kiev. At this point, they're unhappy even with Klitschko, because look at this. We're over the second month of protests, and they cannot agree on anything. They decided not even to bring out a unified candidate should the elections take place. And a lot of people, I think, were really upset by that, which shows that essentially there's three leaders of the protest, and they cannot even come together, and they cannot agree on the fact who is going to be the leader. And that's what people were chanting earlier today. They were shouting leader, leader, because that's exactly what they need, and they don't see that. A lot of talk, very little action.
Irina, thanks for the insight there. Nice to see you in the studio here tonight. No doubt you'll be out covering much more of this in the very near future as well, by the looks of it. Irina Galushka, our correspondent there. OK, well, artist Alexei Rozhevsky's also covered last year's protests in Ukraine. He's following the turmoil in Kiev right now, and you can follow him on Twitter, of course. Follow him for the most dramatic pictures.